It's exactly 12 o'clock. I will kick off with the hook. I'll begin with a shocking statistic. Did you know that 80% of authors sell fewer than 50,000 book copies in their lifetime? Can you believe that? Did you also know that 90% of authors earn less than $1,000 per year from their books? But just wait a minute. The music industry might seem larger than the book industry at first glance. That's what everybody would be thinking about. Down to some statistics. In 2022, the global music industry made $42.5 billion. Now, in 2023, the global box office made $29 billion. Yet the book industry is bigger at about $98 billion. That's as of last year. So how can authors, writers, be a part of this industry and improve our earnings effectively and change this narrative? Well, having a podcast on book promotion is one avenue where authors are thirsty for book promotion ideas. So, for example, you publish your ebook on Kindle at a price, let's give it $9.99, to make about $7. Now, depending on how much you sell the paperback, you may make about $7. So let's put the figure at about $7. And now you start working with a figure of how do I get 100 sales in a month? Yeah. So with 7 backs, with 100 sales, that's about $700 a month on one book. Now, if you have a couple of books, we're talking about $1,400. If it's 3, 4, 5 like that, it's incremental. So you can imagine if you work out, because a lot of times we do things which take a lot of our time and we don't have tangible benefits. Well, if you do effective book promotion on your book, it should not be very difficult to get those 100 sales, and you'll be talking about a figure of $700 a month. Now, the other things you can also do to explore multiple income streams beyond book sales. One of them is participating in book workshops and speaking, public speaking. This is where you do things like speaking engagement and participating in workshops. This can generate significant income, which is additional to, say, you're making that $700. If you just publish a book, $1,400 if they're a couple. And if you have 5 books, you're talking about $300,500 in addition to what you'll be making off public speaking and workshops. You can also go the online courses way and ebooks, creating and selling these courses online, depending on your nature of area and expertise. This can be quite a profitable venture. Then there are other things you can do, consulting, coaching, and those kind of things. Then the other thing you can think about is leveraging on the digital platforms. And this is where you utilize social media effectively, kind of build a loyal branding and create a lot of followers who are loyal, and that way you can help promote books. Again, we live in an era of attention deficit disorder, so more people prefer audiobooks than the hard copies. Then this is an avenue to produce audiobooks. And this can give you, the audio market and provide another avenue for listeners who like, to listen as they go to work or while working at home or cooking, doing laundry and all those kind of things. And then the other one, which is important, is building a strong author presence. And we've talked about this consistently, which involves having professional book covers, a good social media profile. That could also include, coming up with a good author page on Amazon. And then the other thing is very important, engaging with other readers. This is where you respond to comments, offer exclusive content, and you regularly go through your communication. And then there's networking and collaborations. This is basically just working with other authors, industry professionals, and influencers. That can really expand your reach and opportunities.
Lots of good takeaways there, Laban. If you want to do our intro, and then we can get to our guests, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Hello, welcome to this week's broadcast of the Cozy Book Nook, an Express's weekly writers' talk show about book promotion and developing your author or writer platform. I'm your host, Laban T. Esquire, at Inspired by Laban, and our special guest co-host is Jeanne McLeod, at Jeanne McLeod Author. Christina Gabel, Love Golden Hat, is not here today with us. She's traveled to South America for holiday. We developed the Cozy Book Nook to support the book promotion side of writing. Your book deserves the best representation and promotion. Let's commit to promoting our books or other platforms every week.
This kind of leads into the purpose of the show as well, and just how busy our lives can be and how hard it can be as writers to try to fit in marketing our books and focus on that when life can be chaotic and we have so many other responsibilities. So hopefully today people will share some insight, our guests, and if anyone else has questions, to pop into the chat too, that we can get to, just to discuss how to kind of balance all that and how to make this successful.
Yeah, it's usually a lot of work, and creating a balance, like you said, it's very important. Yeah, it's not just about book promotions and leaving other things to chance. Family also is quite important. So I think let you go ahead with this week's topic.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot. We've actually invited a guest on who has a lot of experience, both pros and cons she's going to share with you. But let's introduce Jeanne Roland. So the topic that we were just mentioning about balance and that she can speak to that. Jeanne writes lighthearted romantic adventures. She's busy editing the final book in her Archers of St. Sebastian series. She's a lover of all things dramatic, which is fortunate because she lives with her Greek husband, teenage twins, and a Bernese mountain dog named after the late, great Italian tenor, Franco Corelli. I thought Jeanne would be the perfect guest today just to talk about the challenges of marketing something that doesn't seem to fit the market. Often indie authors talk about this a lot, how we have mashups of genres and books that just don't do what trad books tend to do. And this can be challenging, and I thought it'd be great for Jeanne to speak to, any advice or anything that she can share about that topic. Welcome, Jeanne.
Hi, Jen. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'll preface my comments by saying I'm a huge talker, so if I'm going on too long, please don't hesitate to jump in, cut me off, etc. But I also want to say I'm definitely not an expert at marketing. I don't have all of the answers or even very many of them, but I thought I could just talk about my experience and see if there's anything useful in there for people. So just a little background, I sort of fell into writing as a hobby, something escapist to do to entertain myself. I wasn't even thinking about publishing. How that all happened is a long story for another day. But once you start publishing and marketing, then you do have to think of your book as a product. So a lot of my issues came right away when I had to upload to Amazon, stick my book on some shelf with a whole bunch of labels that didn't really fit it. I felt like my book fell under a lot of different categories, but lacked one crucial element for each one that people would be going to. I didn't even know, I still don't know if my books are really young adult or adult. And it turned out I had written a really long book, something I didn't realize when I was writing it. So I had this really long book, hard to define, hard to categorize on my hand what to do with it. So early on, I knew I had two choices. I could change the book before publishing it to make it more marketable, and I just couldn't bring myself to do that. So the first thing is I felt like I had to accept that being inflexible about my actual book meant I had to be realistic about my expectations. I do think managing expectations is a huge part of marketing, knowing what success means to you. I don't think we're all after the same things. We're not all doing the same things. I'm not actually concerned about making money. I mean, that would be great. I don't want to lose money, but I just want to find more readers. So if you're listening to me thinking that you're going to figure out how to sell 100 books a month of one book, that's not going to happen. But I do think that there are readers out there for every book. It's just a matter of letting your audience know your book exists, that your book is for them. So I decided to try to turn some of the potential negatives of my book into positives. I figured that one good thing about indie books is that we do have things that are original, that are different, that are fresh. And I do think that there are people who are looking for that. Indie authors is where people go when they're looking for books that kind of defy market trends. So the key is, how do you figure out how to let people know that your book has those original elements? So basically what I did is I tried a whole bunch of different things, just tried everything you can think of, and kept in mind that nothing's going to work forever. You find something that works for a while, and then you have to just keep doing it. The first thing I did was that I decided that my book was going to be exclusive to Amazon beyond Kindle Unlimited. For me, this was a good option because the books are long. They are hard to define. People weren't sure what they were getting. It allowed people who weren't sure if they were going to like the book to give it a try. I'll try something different. I'll try something strange, something that looks different and original. And then if they did read it, because it's long, I ended up making more from KU than from the purchase of the book actually every month, even though usually my sales and the consumption of my books on KU is about equal. I make a lot more from KU each month. So that was one decision that I made. I think that's a good one for unknown authors to start getting some visibility. You can always choose to go wide later. Then I also at the beginning signed up for some paid blog tours, which was great for getting some, initial visibility. And then I also stepped away outside my comfort zone and got on social media. I didn't actually have any social media at all, not even Facebook, before I started publishing. But I read somewhere I had to get over myself about social media, so I did. And I started a Facebook author page, and I did try running ads there, which were good. They did help. I do think that my audience is there, but they ended up being too expensive to be very profitable for me. But I did do that to start getting some readers in the first place. I did paid newsletter promotions, Bargain Booksy, Fussy Librarian, Hello Books, a whole slew of other ones. And those all work really well the first time, but then after a while, they start not paying off. And again, you still have to slot them into a certain category, which can be challenging. So one of the other things I've done is invested in Canva. I make a lot of visuals to share on X. I try to support other authors by reposting their books since we all want visibility. I participate in a lot of prompt events like Fantasy Indies, the monthly Thrills prompts. I make graphics for them, post snippets, because I do think this is a way to help make what's unique about your book show up. I stress the things that I think are actually different off market in those posts. I do review clips. I think that when you're posting on X, you need to use short snippets, things that people can take in at a glance in an easy to read font. Stress things that, the originality of your book, the ways that it actually defies genre, because those are where you're going to find the people who are actually interested in the kind of book that you write. Let's see, what else have I done? Something that I've done that's a little different that I really recommend if it works for you, because I'm writing a continuous series. What I did is in the back of each book, I put a link to my website where people can request a complimentary copy of the first chapter of the next book. Then I reply to all of those requests personally. I invite people who have, requested to join my author page on Facebook. And although maybe this isn't, leading to a lot more sales, it is a way to keep your readership engaged. And a lot of these people have written me really lovely comments that I would not have known about otherwise, because so few people review. And it's really been a lovely way to get some feedback that's encouraging. So I guess I'll try to stop there and see if you have questions, Jen. That's sort of, try everything, lean into the things that make your book unmarketable. Those are actually the things that make it appeal to a certain niche. And also, I guess I do want to say I have started doing ads on X, because although posting in the writing community is great, and it's great to have authors see your posts, you really want to try to break out and have readers see your posts. And so I have started doing paid advertisements on X also to try to break out of the small niche of other writers.
Thank you very much, Jane, for sharing that author journey, very important journey. Just a quick question. Can you take us through the cover design and interior layout process? And how can new authors do it effectively?
Well, I would say don't do what I did, first of all. For interior design, the thing that I have done that I would highly recommend if you can afford the initial layout is I invested in Vellum, a program that runs on Mac that formats your book for you. It was, I am not a tech person at all, but I learned how to use it entirely by looking, at YouTube videos, and it's very intuitive and easy, and it creates beautiful interiors, for paperbacks and for ebooks. And I would highly recommend that. That meant I didn't have to ask, someone else to format it. I didn't have to figure out how to format in Word. You could insert pictures, images. I really recommend it. So that's what I've done for interior. It costs something to get it in the first place, something like $300, but then you don't have to pay again. So it's an investment for your entire writing career. So that's my interior. For the cover, it's a long story I won't bore you with, but, it's important to have a good cover. And I knew the importance of having a professional cover. So I did, try to do my research and ask for a professional cover from, something that seemed like a reputable place. And I just did not like the result. I was not happy with it. I didn't feel like I had a good experience. I felt perhaps wrongly, I was young, new to this, but I felt that I was being taken advantage of as a nobody, that I didn't have any clout. I would just pay for anything. And so I was not happy with the result. And I felt like I don't know how to find somebody that will be good. So I'm just going to design the cover for myself. I designed my own cover on Canva. I used open access art from museums for the cover. So I just designed my own. Do not do as I do, because it is not on genre. It does not fit any genre at all. And it certainly doesn't fit young adult, which is how I perhaps wrongly have chosen to slot my book. But on the other hand, it is very unique. So I think it draws some attention too. So it's kind of a plus and minus. But ironically, because I've used a painting that fits the theme of my book, it is a painting that Amazon and Facebook both think is too sexy, ironically, since it's a work of great neoclassical art. And it's meant that I can't run ads on Amazon. So if you want to be successful, look at the books in the genre that you are going to publish in. See what they do for their covers. Make sure that your image is something that is not going to offend Amazon or Facebook, and do everything opposite to the way I did it on my cover. That's my advice.
Excellent, Jen. I like the way that you've tried everything, and this is basically you have chosen to be uncomfortable in order to achieve some success. Yeah, going from having an overly long book, you had to change the book. Now, of all this, what's the most difficult part in the process of releasing a new book? Just before you answer, I also request Jen to see if there are any requests for speakers so that we can try and ask questions from the audience. Go ahead, Jen.
Doesn't look like there's any requests for speakers, but while we're talking, if you do happen to have a question, just throw it into the chat too. Like you can type it, and then we'll be able to see that, and we can even ask it on your behalf too. So, but doesn't look like there are any right now.
Absolutely. And the question that I just asked Jeanne was, what was the most difficult part in the process of releasing the new book?
For me, every time I have to load up, I publish so infrequently, I've always forgotten technically all how to do it. But for me, I think the hardest part is the fear. I find it a very hard thing to do, to put something that I do care about a lot, that I feel like I've poured a lot of myself into, that, I've been inflexible about changing things about it because I do love it so much. I do find it very hard to put that out there and then to watch, no one want to buy it, to watch it sort of, float there. I think that the fear is really the hardest part for me. And managing those expectations, knowing that some of the choices I've made have made it harder for me to promote it, but also realizing that those were the right choices for me, and that if there are consequences, so be it. That really is the hardest part for me.
Excellent. I don't see any other questions from the audience. And so with that, I'm just going to jump straight and invite our next guest, Lily. But before that, I'll just go through a short bio just to introduce her. Lily Lawson writes poetry, kid books, short stories, and nonfiction. In addition to her books, she has been publishing anthologies and online. She describes her voices as wild, chocolate, Twitter, or X if you like, and Grey's Anatomy. Lily has a big hand, I can tell that, which shines through in her writing. The next voice you'll hear is Lily. Lily, welcome on board and share with us what works and what doesn't work. And I know you have a new book. Talk about that too.
Just before Lily, I'm going to jump in for a second. I just wanted to mention another reason why we invited Lily on, and she can speak to that maybe too. So just a great example of another author similar to Jeanne who has, different types of works, and where Jeanne mentioned some of the challenges of marketing that, Lily has so many diverse types of books, so that can prevent, or present some challenges. So that might be kind of cool to hear what you've done with that, Lily. And yeah, like Laban said, you've just released Yellow this past week, so feel free to mention any challenges with that or any advice you have when you're launching a new book. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Laban and Jen. Can I say that I sent my bio to Jen to say, can you just have a look at this and see if it's okay? And she added the last line. I would not have said that about me having a big heart. I very kindly. Yes, I just launched Rainbow's Yellow Book of Poetry, which is the third book in my Rainbow series, following from Red and Orange, and that was on the 24th of September. And this is a kind of, well, we did we've had a discussion about this. When I did my book launch on Saturday, we were discussing the themes in my book, and it seems to come out as different things to different people, as is normal for my poetry. And the themes were, for me, were sort of hope, positivity. I'm trying to remember Jo's word that she used in the to describe the book, the theme of the book, and it
indefatigable.
Thank you. I knew I couldn't say it or remember it, but that it seemed to be the word that would best sum the book up. That are we positive people, and it's about getting through. It's not about just being positive. It's about facing life's challenges and sort of getting through anyway, trying to sort of, I guess, look for the silver lining in the as we go through life. As far as Jen, Laban said, my apologies if I'm mixing this up, but as has already been stated, I write short stories, poetry, and children's books. They each present their own challenges in marketing. And because I write children's picture books, my end consumer, the child, is not the customer. So what I have to try and do, so although the actual product, the end product, has to appeal to the child, the marketing aspect has to speak to the customer, which is obviously an adult because of the size, because of the age of the child. So it's quite the challenge to try and spin it so that the parent or other adult within the child's life thinks, oh, this is a book that the child would like. The good news for publishing children's books and trying to use some of the promo sites, etc., that Jeanne referred to, is that a lot of promo sites have a category for children's books. So there are at least options out there to promote in that manner. One of the other challenges is that you have to charge a reasonable amount of money in order to make, because of the costs that are involved in publishing that sort of literature, because it's illustrated art within the book, and that can sometimes mean that it becomes quite an expensive book, really, relatively speaking. And I have to pay for an illustrator to do that work because I'm not skilled in that area. Certainly not to the standard it would be required. With short stories, with sandcastles, that surprised me, how that went. Out the gate, it did the best of any book I've published. And that was, I do wonder if part of that was due to the fact that Jen did some ads and some posts for me during that period of time when I was releasing that book, and in the subsequent time to follow that, perhaps, and that was using X, and perhaps that's something that I know that ads have to be part of our marketing strategy these days. When I did from my poetry point of view, it's really hard to get promo sites for short fiction, especially if you, like me, don't stick to a particular genre within your short fiction, because what do you label it as? I have tried literary fiction, but that doesn't necessarily come off in certain areas, and I think really perhaps promo sites are not the best place for this book, unless it's one that is open to all books. As far as to get back to poetry, because obviously that's my latest book and that's what I'm trying to promote right now. When I did My Father's Daughter, I didn't know what I was doing. First book, you publish your book, you have this in your hand and you go, now what do I do? What on earth do I start? And I have over time tried Amazon ads, which were proved to be expensive and didn't work for me, and various promo sites, etc. I also tried book tours and I got reviews, but I'm not, and they can work very well for some people. And I don't know whether that actually led to any sales really, but it did give me at least some. It did get my book in front of people, so at least there is that. With this series, with this Rainbow series, when I published Orange, I asked Amazon and Goodreads if I was explained to them that I was writing a series, and asked if they would display that on their sites as a series. The Amazon were keen to do that. Amazon were quite happy to make a series for me. Goodreads said no, because it didn't meet the criteria of what they regard as a series. So I've decided that I'm trying to do. I've only just been doing it for about a week or so now, but I am trying to do X ads. I'm not saying that's going to work in this situation, but it might. I'm hoping that my experience in doing various forms of graphics and videos and things, which I'm growing in my experience of doing, might help. I have had lots of support from people who've done graphics and videos, etc., for me, and that's really, I believe that's been really helpful, because it's given me a chance to try out things and see what worked and what didn't. And having Jeanne post for me when she did also gave me a bit of oversight as to how different things went over on X, because obviously, as we all know, she has a very much larger following than I do, and is much more experienced in Twitter ads and therefore, or X ads. I'm sorry, Old Habits Die Hard. It's really difficult for me to call it X and not Twitter. So it did give me a chance to see whether or not that was actually something I should do. Should I be verified? As you can see, I made the decision to go ahead with that. And should I go ahead with trying to do ads for myself? I am incredibly lucky that I've had Jeanne's guidance with this, and unfortunately she's probably going to have to continue to help me with this, because it's a really complex thing to try and do ads. And I've been trying out Red, because Red was a very popular book, to see how it would come across before I try out Yellow, which I'm going to start trying to do this week. This was I've never had a book launch before, and Yellow was the first book to be honoured with a book launch. So that was quite an interesting experience. I'm very grateful to the people who did that. It gave me yet another sort of platform to promote my book, and that was great. And it's always good to have promotions for your book. I've had some very good feedback from this. People do seem to enjoy my poetry, which again I'm very grateful for. I think what we have to remember is that every book is different, and what works for one doesn't work for another, and what works in one particular time for a book may not work if you keep returning to that platform or trying to do that same thing again. Marketing is frustrating, confusing, and unfortunately very necessary. And as Jeanne has alluded to, if you don't let people know that you have a book out there, then you have no chance at all of selling it. I haven't been able to do anything much on face-to-face sales, because as I was a carer for 10 years, and that facility didn't tend to go along with that. But that might be something I would look at in the future. I recognise that some of my fellow authors have had success in that area, and actually say that that's probably the best way to do things. So, yes, this is a bit of a journey. I'm doing Substack these days and trying to see if I can build a following there, as well as X and Instagram. Haven't got a Facebook page. Facebook isn't very keen on the idea that that this is my author name and it is not my real name. I was luckily able, when I first started on X, Twitter as it was in those days, I actually made an account in my real name and then just used my author name as a username. So therefore, I am been able to be verified, and so I'm grateful for that. How that pans out, I don't know. I'm quite new at that still, but hopefully it will lead to some more exposure, and doing things like this can hopefully only be helpful. I think whatever we do, we've got to try different things and see what works, but to remember that you've got to be aware that there are restrictions and different hurdles, barriers to overcome with each thing, with each book. And my biggest barrier in poetry is that people don't like that word. It scares them. People have this image of what poetry is and what poets are, and that it makes them want to run away. And that's why I call myself a non-poetry lover's poet, because the line I hear in my reviews most often is, "I don't like poetry, but I like yours." So that's why my title is the non-poetry lover's poet, in case anybody was wondering where that came from. Sorry, I think I've waffled a bit rather longer than I intended to. I didn't time what I was going to say.
I think that was perfect. And the biggest takeaway that I just had was you talked about so many different strategies. They don't always work. And it's like, you have to just keep trying. And you also talked about diverse social media types. IG is not the same as X. And I think, if you're using Facebook or Amazon and you're trying ads on different ones, they don't always work, and they might suddenly work on one. So I just appreciate that you talked about how different it all is, and even marketing your different types of books, having to consider who's actually the one buying it. Is it the parent of the kid for the, children's book, or poetry, like you said, how to reach people who maybe don't normally buy poetry. There's just a lot to kind of take away there and think about. Maybe we can get some questions from other people at the end on that. But if you have anything else to say, Lily, I'll kind of pause for a minute and then I'll introduce Joe.
When she's done with whatever she wants to say, I have one or two questions I'd like to ask her.
I am quite happy to answer any questions you may have, Laban.
Okay. My first question is, what are the unique challenges of writing short stories? And the second part of that question is, how do you ensure a satisfying conclusion in a limited word count? Thank you.
I am a pantser to the bone. I never know what I'm going to write any day. I get up and I write every day. That's my only criteria. I must write every day. I open my Word doc and whatever comes out, comes out. I hope that I get to a satisfying conclusion. I am very privileged to have three. Well, I'm saying three, but actually sometimes it's more than that. To have excellent beta readers who will come at me and say, you need to add something to that, or you need to, this didn't end properly, or whatever else might be they might have to say, which is always incredibly helpful. If always, please don't publish. If I have to, one of the things I will say to people is, please don't publish without somebody reading it. If nobody reads it before it goes public, then there's all sorts of issues with that. I don't know how people write novels. I don't know how people write long fiction, because I find it very difficult to maintain the momentum past something I write in one hit. If I have done stories where I've made them longer, and I've written for a prompt, and I've felt that the story had more legs to it, as you might say, and therefore I've gone back and used different prompts and continued on. But generally speaking, it's quite, I just write what I write, and it finishes when it finishes, and hopefully it works. So I don't know if that actually answers your questions.
Okay, thank you very much for with that response. My other question is, what advice would you give to aspiring authors and writers who want to write in multiple genres?
I didn't go into this expecting to write multiple genres. I went into this writing poetry. I've written poetry. I have written poetry, stories, and nonfiction since I was 11 years old. I couldn't finish a story till 2019. I have so many unfinished stories, it's unbelievable. I have something like 1,200 files on my computer of things that I haven't used yet, and some of which may never see the light of day. In fact, probably the majority of which will never see the light of day. So I went into this as a poet. I didn't go into this as a multi-genre author. I just found myself writing stories, and there was an anthology that went for the Open University's 50th anniversary in 2019. I am an Open University student, mature student, and I decided to challenge myself to finish a story, to send them a story rather than just poetry. So this is what I did. And since then, when Mackerel, the magazine that is unfortunately no longer exists, was published, then I sent stories and poetry into that, I ended up writing non-fiction for the Hoot, which is an Open University website as well. So I don't think I can tell people how to do this. I don't think I can say to people how to write multi-genre. I sort of fell into it like I do with a lot of things, and I just sort of went along and saw what happened. I had a lot of trouble getting myself in the headspace to publish Sandcastles. I had challenges in publishing Yellow, but my challenges in publishing Yellow were different. It was because of the timing and because of the content of the book. So because of my father's death, and it just made me feel that it was possibly the wrong book to publish, but I am very, very glad I did, and I will intend to finish my Rainbow. I realised that I've gone sort of a little bit off what you actually asked me.
Thanks so much for that, Lily. And I think that your suggestion there that you have different types of writing on the go, I know some people are really against that. They have one type of writing, they only work on that until it's done. But you just mentioned the benefit of having, say, a poetry project on the go, a children's book. Because like you said, if you wake up that day and you don't feel like writing the one, work in progress that you've got on the plate, you can switch. And I think that's something that I've started to do. I didn't do that at the beginning. I had one project, but I think that's really good advice for people who do get stuck. If you have multiple kinds of things that are really diverse. Laban, I'm not sure if you have a follow-up question, and if not, I can introduce Joe.
No, I think you can go ahead and introduce John.
All right. Joanne's been on before, so this is a sort of a follow-up interview, which I'm excited about. But for those of you who didn't join us the last time, I'll just do a quick intro. So Joanne, or J.C. Paulson, is a Saskatoon journalist who has been published in newspapers and magazines. And I should add that Saskatoon is in Canada, for anyone who doesn't know. Joanne shifted from fact to fiction 4 years ago when she started writing mysteries based in Saskatchewan. Adam's Witness is the first book in her Adam and Grace mystery series. She has also published a historical Western and a little children's book. So that's just a quick intro to Joanne, but I've put the link to Adam's Witness in the reply to this. So if anyone isn't aware of that, you can check it out and see all of the books in that, and also link to her Amazon page. I wanted Joe to come back on because she has a whole bunch of things that have worked really well, as well as some things in marketing that didn't maybe go the way she thought. And I thought, just talking about sort of the process or the progress of all of that, and how you try different things, what's worked, what maybe didn't work. Maybe warn us about the things not to ever try, or some of just that advice that we can use. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that lovely introduction. And I also realized that I sent you the wrong bio, because I've actually been doing this for 8 years, not 4. So apologies for that. If I sound slightly like I'm speaking to you out of the bottom of a pickle barrel, it's because it is fall here and I am very allergic in the fall. So I will do my best not to sniff. So I'm going to start with a very brief history, and some of you have probably heard me talk about this before, and I apologize for that, but there's a bit of an arc here I want to share as quickly as possible. When I launched Adam's Witness in 2017, I did very, very, very well locally. I was a top seller in the city. Things were going great. And then I realized that's all going to end when everybody in Saskatoon who wants my book has purchased it. So what was I going to do next? And a man from New York who was a book marketer got in touch with me out of the blue and said, my wife read your book and she thinks that we can promote it for you. Are you interested? And I thought, is this a scam? Who is this person? So I phoned him. He picked up the phone. He was a real human being. I agreed to do this. He put Adam's Witness up for free on, I think it was 3 of the well-known promo sites. And the thing exploded. And he said to me, I'm going to get you to #1. And I said, really? Right. But he did. Of course, free though, right? And I went down that road, I think 3 times with Adam's Witness, putting it out for free to try to gain readership and so on. And I gave away probably 25,000 copies of that book. I'm pretty close on that number anyway. Did it do me any good? Some, but of course I never made a dime off those books. Remembering that I only had 1 book out at the time, and then the rest of the series followed from there. So I don't know if anybody has tried doing a multiple promo with a brand new book. This is an important point, brand new book, recently. I'm not sure that you would get 25,000 downloads today. I think that promo sites have changed. I think, as Jeanne rightly pointed out, you can only go back to that well so often. And they probably still work quite well for new books, but I don't know. Would you get that these days? I don't know. That said, I had a pro doing it, so that helps. Because when I do promo sites now, the outcome is terrible. Like it's very low. And so we have to sort of put the promo sites in context, I think, because they're not cheap either, right? And you want to make I at least would like to make my money back. I'm going to fast forward dramatically here. I have tried Facebook ads. They have been, as Jeanne also rightly pointed out, they were successful to a point. I made sales. I gained readers of my Substack and my MailerLite before that, and even got some read-through. But the cost of the ads meant that I was not making money on Facebook ads. And if anybody ever seriously solves that problem, I'm definitely listening. I believe that we have a couple of friends who are making Facebook work quite well. I don't know what their ROI is. So 2 points here so far then is use promo sites wisely and do not discount local and in-person sales. I made a lot of money and sold a lot of books in our sort of favorite, I guess, local bookstore here. And, just because they're local people, they're still reading. So I would definitely do that. The other thing that worked for me very well was that I did a lot of media at the time. And wow. It was amazing. I got covered on every single mainstream media outlet in Saskatoon. And what you need for that, though, is an angle. Just saying, hey, I put out a new book, I rock, isn't going to work out terribly well. And so this is just what happened to me, because not everybody is going to have the same kind of background that they have in a community. I've been a journalist here for a long time, but what sold my book, I think, is that I located those books here and people bought them. So it was a bit, hey, I published a new book. It's located in Saskatoon. You should buy it. And yeah, that worked. If you say, for example, though, if you're writing fantasy, right, you need a different angle. You can't say this fantasy book, which takes place on, I don't know, another planet or in 2080, is located here. Yeah, that's not going to work so well. So you have to come up with a different angle. Going to jump ahead dramatically here again. I have Jennifer McLeod almost entirely to thank for this, because she persuaded me to try an X ad. And I, experimented, I suppose, a little bit, and nothing happened. I mean, they worked okay, but they weren't churning for me. Until I posted one in mid-August, and that one went. And I talked about this a little bit in the last time I was here, so I hope I'm not boring people too much, but I'm just going to go over that again, because I think it's an important point, and I think it's an important place to advertise, because it is indeed affordable, which BookBub is not, which Facebook is not, which Amazon is not. You have to sell an incredible number of books to make those ads work, and it is not the same on X. So I posted, let's see, trying to remember exactly what I posted. I posted, first of all, the title. Right under that, I posted the link to the book. Then I posted the book description, and then I posted reviews. And for the image, I did not use the book cover. I used an image of my main character walking up to the church in which she finds the dead bishop. And there was some controversy around this book. My book is about homophobia and the terrible things that can result when people discriminate against other people. And of course, there are elements on X who think I'm a terrible human being and I'm woke and oh my God, how terrible is this? But it created a certain amount of controversy, and I wonder if they realized how much they were helping me spike the algorithm. Made me feel sick to my stomach, but unfortunately, I think that it helped the algorithm. So, in a month, I sold 71 books, and what was super interesting to me is that I did not have a lot of KU reads, about 12,000. It was very interesting to me that I sold more books than got, per capita, I suppose, KU reads. That was bizarre, I thought. But anyway, so this ad worked like crazy. Every day I'd get up and I would have sales almost, and I was just, what is happening? And then it died. It just died. It was like it fell off a cliff one day. And it just stopped. So I'm going to have to go back and see if I can recreate that success. I don't understand exactly what happened. I'm going to have to dive in, but it worked, and it was pretty cool. And so my return on investment, so ROI, was easily in the 150% range. I cannot remember the numbers exactly, but it was 150% at least. And I have never had ROI like that, except for here in Saskatoon on the ground. The other thing I just want to mention super quickly, I think I've gone over my time already. And Jen has pointed this out to me a number of times, but there are times of the year when I think we really have to look at our advertising spend, if that indeed is the route we have decided to go. Because there are times of the year, and we're in one right now, certainly we are in Saskatchewan, where I would say the United States we're closing in there too, where there is so much noise, right, from online, elections, disasters, celebrities doing crazy things and huge court cases, this sort of thing, where all the focus is on what is happening around us. And we're not going to do as well at those times. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on what is happening in your world. So I want to finish by saying that what I have done isn't necessarily going to work for everybody because I'm in a particular genre. And you would think that, my primary genre is mystery romance, right? Which is supposed to be kind of a top seller on Amazon. Not in my experience entirely, but advertising a mystery or romance is not going to be the same thing, as Lily said, as children's books or poetry or fantasy and so on. It's what worked for me. Sorry, there goes my throat. What worked for me may not work for you. I just want to clarify, the sort of things that I have written. My children's book is by far my worst seller, and I don't promote it all that much. But that's a tough one for me, and I admire Lily very much for having had much better success with hers. And I'm just looking at my. Oh yeah, okay. One more thing. If you're doing an ad, get the link up there, get it high, and the ads I have run where the link is high up, like under the title, work much better than if they're at the bottom of your copy. And secondly, in my experience, please argue if you have had a different one, stills, so still art work better than videos by a factor of about 10 to 1 for me. And I'm just going to wrap it up now because I think I've gone on for far too long. I had way too much to say. Thanks for listening. Love you.
Thank you very much, Joanne, for sharing that. I like that story of how you met this person in New York that approached you. What do you think was the hook that they decided to promote your book?
I think they were just trying to grow their business, frankly. And they were watching me on Twitter at the time, for sure. And they saw that I had put this out. His wife decided to pick it up and take a peek at it and said, yup, I think this is going to sound self-aggrandizing. What he said, though, was my wife read your book. She liked the plot. She liked the story. And it's well written. We don't see any errors in it, any significant errors in it. It's well edited. And we are interested in taking you on as one of our clients because we will not be embarrassed by promoting your book. And that was very flattering. Thank you very much. So I think that it was just, they wanted to grow the business. They thought I had done a decent job. Let's give it a go. I still am amazed that this guy from New York just called me out of the blue, but it was fun. He was standing in the middle of Central Park hollering at me because there was so much noise. And I was like, is this really happening? But he, I got to say, he knew what he was doing. He was excellent. And I am much more leery about this sort of thing now. There are a lot of scammers out there. In those days, there were fewer. This has become a much bigger deal. Haven't used them since because it was pretty pricey, but it was a heck of a good way to get Adam's Witness off to a good start. I mean, a reasonable start.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. My next question is, how did you find the transition from nonfiction to fiction? And were there any challenges or surprises that you encountered along the way?
I don't know. I think that as a journalist, I had the basics that one requires for any kind of writing, whether you're writing an essay or a novel or a news story. You have to know fundamentally how to spell, use grammar, and understand punctuation. The difficult part was learning how to plot properly, and I did a lot of reading about that before I was even like 5 or 6 chapters into Adam's Witness, I thought, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here with the plot arc. I kind of did. I mean, I have almost have an English degree, so I've read a lot of books and had to study them. But still, when you're doing it, that's a whole different thing. So I did a lot of reading and just learned how to write a chapter so that it had an arc, and lots and lots of cliffhangers at the ends of chapters, and that sort of thing. And study and perseverance, I guess. But the actual craft, came fairly easy because I'd been already doing the basics for about 30 years, I guess. So you got to learn. That's my background.
One thing just before we move forward, Joe, one thing that you said that I thought was really helpful for people with the advertising part of it, specifically with X ads, but probably with any, is that you need the angle. And I think, the layout, the setup, where to put the link, all that's really important. But then, like you said, some kind of angle for the ad, like who are you trying to hook into, becoming interested and then buying the book. And I think that's interesting. And like you said the controversy aspect, not that it has to be wildly controversial, but a small little aspect of that to get people maybe replying or engaging with it. Just something sort of provocative that will catch their interest. Unfortunately, it can go the other way, like you said, where people are replying really negative and hurtful things, which is awful. But it didn't seem to actually hurt your sales, which is fascinating. So again, we've talked a lot about separating business from the other side, the personal side. And unfortunately, that's one of the aspects when you put your book out there that you have to do. And I really appreciated what you said about find some kind of angle or something to pull the people in when you are creating an ad. And then just a follow-up question. You said that your children's book, it does the worst, but you don't market it a lot. Have you ever tried to advertise it?
No, I have never tried paid advertising on the children's book. To be honest, I may try it one day. I'm extremely focused on advertising the mystery romance series right now. I am 2/3 of the way finished the last book in the series, so that will be 6 books altogether. And I'm really hoping to generate more readership before that happens. So I'm extremely focused on that. I may try the children's book one day. I'm kind of thinking about having a friend who is a brilliant cartoonist redo the graphics, because I don't think the graphics are terribly good. I just whip them up myself, and I am no genius in that regard. So there's a bit of shyness, I think, that comes in there too, and that's another thing. You got to stand up and be proud of what you've written, and stick to your guns, because my novels tend to be about social issues more than anything else, and I have to stand up and support my voice, and say, this is what I believe in, and if you're a homophobic jerk face, go away. Controversy is very interesting. It's very difficult. And I would say, Jen, that it did not just hurt my sales. I think that it helped sales. And I find that I'm still unpacking that. That was a tough thing to watch. And there were a few people who ended up taking down their comments when someone pointed out that, hey, you're just helping her. Stop commenting. And I went, yeah, it's true. Absolutely. Because that's 100% the best ad I've ever run. And that's the only thing I can attribute it to.
Awesome. Jen, what are some of the take-homes or takeaway from the speakers of today? What is the greatest takeaway?
Honestly, I think it's to just keep trying. Because each speaker today mentioned how they had maybe had a challenge or not been successful. And then when they tried something new, maybe it wasn't again, but they just continued to take risks, learn from it, grow from it, try a new thing, and never give up. I think, especially for indies, that's really important because, I've heard stories from so many who want to delete their account, want to pull their book down. One bad review and they want to delete the whole book. And, how many books are on Amazon? I don't know, 10 million? I have no idea. But the point is like, one person or 5 people didn't like it. Don't let that stop you. Just learn from everything. And, there's something to be learned in every situation. It's just an opportunity for growth. And I just really appreciate all 3 guests. They gave me something deep to think about. So thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think that some of the books that have been extensively marketed, they hit for some time, then the sales fall. This shouldn't be discouraging to most of the authors, because books, they take a time lag of about 2 years to find its rightful audience. And when that happens, the book ends up having, books have a long shelf life, let me put it that way. A good example is this book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. When it was released in the first year, it only sold 9,000 copies. But then every year it keeps selling more, Every subsequent years it makes more sales, and this is true for both fiction and nonfiction. And then when you look at another book, this is called The Personal MBA. This book never hit New York Times, was never on the Wall Street Journal. But guess what? 12 years later, it has sold over 1.2 million copies. So the thing is, never give up. And as well, you just have to learn to be uncomfortable. What everybody has been trying to do. We can see what Lily has tried, what Jeanne has tried, what Joanne has tried. You got to keep doing it. There's no giving up.
That's so true. Good advice, no matter how long you've been doing this. Just the whole X ads thing, if anyone wants to try one of those sometime, please feel free to DM me and ask questions. I would love to answer them. And I'm not saying it's going to work, but I can certainly share what hasn't worked or the things that I feel that have. Just a final comment about the ads. Jo said her controversial one in August did the best. That was the same thing for me, but I'll tell you what the controversy was. I started an ad in May for one of my books, and in it, I mentioned that the main character finds the female character's Canadian accent sexy. And I got the most trolling I've ever had in the replies, but a lot of engagement and the most sales. So I don't know if it's because people felt sorry for me when they saw the trolling, or if it was because I just kind of called people on the trolling and then they ended up apologizing and buying the book. I would immediately have sales after engaging with those people. So, and it lasted about 60 days. It was about 2 months of straight sales. And so I don't know what, the specific return is. It's been a while since I looked at the data, but controversy can be small, and as long as it gets people talking, right?
I remember that, Jen, and watched that with great interest, and had to weigh in, saying, noting that Canadians actually do have sexy accents, and so, what were they on about? So there.
Okay, thank you very much. Our guests today, Jeanne, Lily, and Joanne. And thanks for all the listeners for visiting the Cozy Book Nook. We've just come to the end of the broadcast. We look forward to connecting next week. Commit to doing something right for your book, and we'll see you next Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time right here on the X Faces. If you want to stay longer, you're free to do that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Laban. If anyone wants to chat or ask questions, just request to speak and I can make it happen.
That was a great show. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you including me.
You're very welcome. I mean, it's been the second time we've had you on the show. That story of how it happened for you with this, this couple that had gone through your book is very exciting. I hope some of this will be happening more often.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's really interesting to listen to everything that everybody has to share, and hopefully some of the things that we've shared between us will help somebody out there.
I hope so too. I don't know. I mean, we're all just struggling along. We're all doing different things, but maybe, we can learn from each other and support each other, which is really why we're on X, right?
Certainly in my case, I really appreciate all the writing community, and various individuals within the writing community have been amazing to me, and including both the other guests and of course Jeanne, and I really appreciate that.
It's been my greatest sort of decision was joining Twitter X, because before I did that, it was just me and my lonely little writing, because nobody in my actual life cares. I shouldn't say nobody. There's a handful of people. Like Joe said, in-person stuff, when I would go, it would do well. But that's because, I would advertise it and then a bunch of other people would come. But I have a lot of relatives, but a lot of them aren't aware or as supportive of this. So having X is really helpful for that.
Can I jump in and say I agree? And having a group of supportive authors, particularly ones that you can, do your complaining about privately, not in a public space, is really helpful. But I do also want to stress that whereas the writing community is this great resource, if you want to sell your books, you do have to find a way to break out of just the writing community. I do this a lot too, but just all of sharing our books with each other only isn't going to help us find more readers. So, don't let people tell you that it's, self-aggrandizing to do advertising or to try to push your book outside of things that are just free. Sometimes you have to spend some money to get your book seen. Hopefully, as Joe and Lily and Jen have been talking about, trying to find a way to do that with a rate of return that isn't, break the bank. But just relying on, other people showing your book to the same people over and over isn't really going to get you very far.
I have to dive in here and say, Jeanne, boom. I think we all need to look, we all need to understand that. And it's wonderful to have this great community and all the support, but we're not going to sell books by speaking in the echo chamber all the time. So we do sometimes have to think, okay, maybe I can spend, $30 this month and run an ad and see where it gets me, because otherwise we're just all talking to each other. And I've also thought lately that forgive me, and if no one's interested, I understand, that one really useful topic in a podcast someday would be, how do we break out of our echo chamber in Twitter and reach other people? I don't know. And if somebody has ideas for that, I am listening. I think that would be great if we could find unique and maybe revolutionary ways to use this platform.
Public speaking. The authors who have gone the public speaking way, they kind of like have an unfair advantage, because an author who's a consultant and is able to speak charges 10 times more than an author who's not a speaker. Can you believe that?
The issue is that not all of us have things that, if you write nonfiction, then you have an obvious thing to speak about. If you are skilled in giving out writing advice, or you're skilled at, or you've done a lot of historical research, if you're writing historical fiction, or there is an obvious platform for you to speak at, then that's one thing. But for example, for somebody like me, I don't know what I would actually speak about, unbelievably, considering I can talk for England. But it's easier for certain, depending on what you're actually trying to publish and whatever you're trying to do. Joe, I do think we do need to, at some point in the future, that is a good topic for a podcast, to see whether to open it up to people and see what they think.
Thank you, Lily.
I have another possible topic, although it might ruffle some feathers, is we're always talking about what to do to market our books. I think maybe we should also talk about what things people shouldn't be doing to market their book. Because there are also quite a few things that really are not very good ideas, in my opinion.
That sounds excellent to me.
Some ideas there for a future podcast there, Laban.
Absolutely. In the introduction part, I ran through some of them here, and we should be, looking at this so that people can get ideas. Because what I know is people are really, really thirsty for ideas. So, just keep logging in. We will address most of these issues and see how, the writing community can benefit from these talks.
That's fantastic, everyone. I'm going to end the recording. Does anyone else have a question? Want to speak for a moment? Just let me know before I end it.
Yeah, and before you do that, I want to thank you very much for all you've done, the guests you've been able to invite, and you've just, I'm short of words. I don't know how to describe it, but thank you very much, Jeanne.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I honestly felt so honored to be asked. Christina had to travel, and in the summer, I think it was in August, she mentioned this and asked me, and I was honored, and it's been great working with you. So thank you. All your graphics and just all the support, and just so happy the guests could come. So, and yeah, reach out anytime, DM me with any questions about marketing and stuff, the ads specifically. Not that I know anything about the rest of it, but we're all learning here. I'm going to end this, but just raise your hand if you want to speak before I click end.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I never hesitate whenever I need to contact you for whatever reason. Thank you for being a very supporting member of the writing community. Thank you very much, everyone. And do have a lovely evening. Well, it's evening here because it's 8. It's just gone to 20 past 20 here.
All right. Thanks so much. Yeah. Thanks for everybody. Thanks, Laban. And I'm going to end this, but anybody is free to put questions or replies. Also, feel free, everybody, to add your own links, your own book links here. If you were listening today, drop a link to your books or any other services that you offer. Have a great day.